Hello there everyone, and welcome back. It's time to dive into the Tau Protector Fleet, the other of the two Tau factions we have presented to us for Armada 2. And they're also the faction that you're very well accustomed to if you ever played Armada 1, especially when the DLC for this faction was released. They are pretty potent, I want to argue, especially in Armada 1. They were perhaps the most durable of all the fleets, and the only reason I say that is when you consider the fact their most valuable upgrade in Armada 1, the Adaptive Deflector. Well, technically, they have it here in Armada 2, but that is in name only, if I were to be perfectly honest. The Adaptive Deflector in Armada 2, or Armada 1 rather, I'm getting these games confused right now, so that's not gonna bode well for the rest of this video, is it? But Adaptive Deflector in Armada 1 basically gave your prow shields the armor that you currently have for the Tau fleet. That made them ridiculously durable in a firefight. Sure, it didn't really help them with the ramming, which is one of the main things Tau were extremely susceptible to. But if even then, with the prow armor and being able to unload your full payload of weaponry, you still were very decent even in those awkward situations, because after all, the Imperial Navy technically couldn't fire their weapons at you if they're ramming you with their prow, and they're definitely too close for torpedoes to be effective. And orcs, most of the time, are probably equipped with torpedoes as well. So even with your low health pool, your lower ramming damage, you still were in very fine shape, especially when you consider potential repair drones. But at the end of the day, Tau was kind of relegated mostly to relying on their Manta bombers, since the one main weakness, or one big vulnerability they had in Armada 1 was the fact that they had almost no armor-piercing potential. Even their seeker missiles were like the only torpedoes in the game that actually didn't penetrate armor like all the other factions did, which made them really easy to mitigate, especially with brace for impact, and if you had like 75 armor prows, or at least a faction that had 75 armor. So it was relegated a lot of the time to using your bombers, since they were the only thing that reliably got through that armor and did their full payload of damage, which technically is the same as all the other squadrons. It was just compacted into a single ship, which made it a lot more hard to shoot down when you think about how the fighter mechanics works in Armada 1. But now that's been balanced out a little bit more, and the seeker missiles have been buffed up heavily. Hell, you already seen this potential if you saw me using the merchant fleet, and that's going to be capitalized so much more, I think, with this fleet. Hell, I'm even going to try and use two different versions of the Tau fleet. For the one I've been really experimenting with doesn't use the Custodian. And in all honesty, I've been a real fan of using the railguns. Excuse me there. I've been a real fan of using the railguns even in Armada 1 because I felt like they were heavily underrated. They had, like it goes without saying, I already said that you get to fire your full payload of weaponry into your enemy while using the prow armor. That makes them exceptionally dangerous, on top of the durability itself. That may have been laid back a little bit with the lack of Adaptive Deflector on the shield, but nonetheless, when you consider things like this repair drone repairing 6 health a second? Which even then, if you're ever using a Custodian Armada 1, you didn't even have anywhere close to 6 ships to even utilize this much repair. Hell, even if you had a bunch of Protectors and Sauces, or Emissaries rather, the light cruisers, you're still not getting the 6 hull points a second for crying out loud. So the repair drone is amazing value, I want to argue. It still technically only has 3 charges, but this easily alleviates a lot of the health problems you may have for long-term firefights, I want to argue. But our upgrades themselves are the exact same as the merchant fleet, so there's not really much else to really say in all honesty. I'm just going to be utilizing the railgun for a little more burst potential. It says 100 damage on here. I'm pretty certain that's 300 damage, another typo in the system, I guess. I'm going to be using coordinators to enhance my accuracy, especially if I'm dealing with something that's trying to avoid me like Chaos or Eldar, in all honesty. And manifolds to kind of help me deal with torpedoes a little bit more. I'm not actually going to be running and kiting them ideally, unless I feel like I'm not ready to commit to a full-on engagement. I might just harass them, since even though running away, the mobility can be pretty good. If I'm trying to flank them with broadside weaponry, it's really, in truth, only the Emissary that has the firepower that's noteworthy. Since only 4 of these railguns are going to get to fire, and this is just the Dalef, or is it the Borkon version? It's the Borkon version with the grav hooks. Even then, it's not a lot of firepower. You're not going to be whittling things down really quickly, if I were to be so honest. But, like I said, I'm going to be trying 2 different fleets here. One I would love to eventually learn at some point. Well, I'm hitting the wrong button for one. To try and learn the Cao Yang type of style without committing to all light cruisers for the silent running. And this is a new mechanic that you may have yet to see in Armada 2, is that the Tau have a different, you could choose what kind of attack pattern or what kind of style you want to play as as you're doing your deployment. I'm getting all mixed up today. It's been a weird day. Nonetheless, you'll get to see it firsthand, and I'm going to demonstrate 2 different fleets for. I argue this would be the simplest of the Tau protector fleets to utilize, just because of the sheer durability and the burst potential you have with the Custodian. And maybe, if I'm lucky enough, maybe I can give you a good display with what I have in mind with the Demiurge and not relying so much on the Custodian. That's the hope anyway. Alright, Space Marines. They got a lot of mobility, and there's a good chance maybe I'm dealing with the boarding torpedo strategy yet again. Big difference here as opposed to my Orc strategy is I got an overwhelming amount of fighters that kind of help shoot them down. Never mind the sheer extra mobility to kind of dodge them relatively well. It's just a matter of actually seeing them ahead of time, because I would make the argument I looked twice specifically for those boarding torpedoes and never saw them until they were just about in firing range or about to hit my Orc rocks. So I was caught a little off guard there, even though I specifically looked for the dang things, the boarding torpedoes, which probably would have made things, at least gave me a lot easier time and for the actual engagement itself. That would be my argument. But that's in the past, and I'm better equipped with this fleet at least to kind of deal with that. So let me just get my control groups all set up, since it is a little bit odd, since I'm going to be doing, the Custodian's going to be hanging in back, and then the Protectors are going to be in front, mostly to kind of soak the brunt of the first little bit of damage, and then I'm going to let the Custodian kind of move on up as necessary. It's going to be a little bit awkward since, like I said, the Seeker missiles are not going to get their full value since my ships are kind of behind each other, but at the same time, that would committing that many Seeker missiles would generally be a mistake, I would argue, if my opponent knows to look for them and can dodge them. And here's the war styles, or the buffs you can get basically for the Tau Protector fleet. In which case, Cao Yang gives me additional accuracy that of Eldar if I go Cao Yang and I'm stealthed, and Monka, if I mark a ship, I basically get additional critical hit bonus, which stacks on top of the lock-on, so it's pretty vicious if utilized properly. And right now we're only seeing 2 ships, which could be battle barges. I have a way to find out. Let's just not get too ridiculous with my fighters, since I do need them for the battle that's probably to come. Also, another tip, all the frigates have their engagement set to the sides, and considering, especially these wardens, they have prow railguns, you may want to change that if you ever think of it. Otherwise, well, even just out of habit, they're likely to circle around and kind of wander away from the rest of your fleet. And since I'm using Target Coordinator, that's kind of essential to have my Castellan not actually wander off and potentially get killed. For that reason alone, I would think be pretty good to note. Also, the one benefit of doing it like this is, normally the Protectors and the Tau ships are so wide that if trying to do a normal move order will kind of make things really awkward for you trying to maneuver with them if you have nothing but cruisers of the same size. They kind of intrude with each other's speed and mobility some, which was definitely a huge factor. Identified, so that was a pulse, wasn't it? No, just an extended range beacon, okay. Which is interesting upgrade. You don't really see that being utilized, because it seems kind of redundant when you have the convenience of a scanner pulse after all. It feels like anyway.
The enemy has seized
Otherwise, what are we going to spot here? So 2 strike cruisers, boarding torpedoes.
Drones have identified an enemy target.
You have seized a strategic area. The enemy has seized a strategic
interesting. Vanguards. This is going to be weird, but I gotta be mindful of boarding torpedoes, aren't I? And also, be mindful of critically trying to kill these engines. The Manta Bombers actually didn't strike yet, surprisingly, too, so... Oh, how many railgun hits? Ooh, I got 2. This is going to be a very short battle, isn't it? Potentially. Let's not get too carried away just because I only got 1 means to actually board these ships, which is not a lightning strike. This is kind of the extreme case when everything goes well. And I am getting bored heavily. And I don't have any fighters, but they are thankfully getting shot down just by the convenience of everything being together. But this probably warrants a brace for impact to help shoot down these torpedoes some. Assuming they are using torpedoes, yeah, they have torpedoes. So their actual direct fighter power is quite laughable. Gotta be mindful, there are strike cruisers coming up behind me. And I gotta keep cohesion, I gotta not panic, because that can easily go bad. Since, with how wide my ships are, it's really easy for me to kind of crash into each other, which is something that happens a lot. Especially if you don't have a move order or have a move order in a bad place, they can easily get themselves turned around even with all ahead full. Now, I want to fire seeker missiles. This might hurt a bit. Especially for them, only half of them hit, which is still a good run nonetheless. It's still live. I can easily board, so let's get ready to board in a moment's notice. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. Come on. You have honor the chapter, so I would expect you have means to... Huh. I should just fire seeker missiles and hope I don't hit myself. Because I think the Castellan, yeah. And everything else was probably too close to truly be effective. And I have experimental railgun. Can I use it? This is going to hurt at least the cruiser. So worthwhile shot. Yeah, this is going to be over quickly. Although, let me actually get these fleets moving to cap points. You never know when that could be a factor. And now I didn't want to reload, but that works in this situation. Okay, I was waiting for that, and of course when I finally look away, when I goddamn decide to look away, that's when they decide to board and kill off the crew of my custodian. You jerks. I had it all planned out and everything too. Otherwise, I still gotta wait a minute for the bombers. I got repairs up. So we're in fighting form. This will be over momentarily. Can I at least hit with some more seeker missiles? I just wish there was a hotkey for these seeker missiles, because as you can see, it doesn't label one down there for me. So hopefully an additional patch of some kind to those can at least make that more convenient. Even if it's like another... Well, considering melta torpedoes have a hotkey, and those are strictly for Imperial Navy, you think they could share that for all other factions to a limited extent too. That would probably be the easiest fix for if there's a reason why these abilities are not hotkeyed. And I'm gonna have to double check if there's a way to like set priority in components with hotkeys too. Since to be honest, I never really did check. That would make my life a lot easier because having to set critical hits on or priority on engines, it takes a lot of time with multiple ships like I did with the light cruisers. Alright. My engines are down again, but I think we're good. Arguably very one-sided fight, but again, my opponent was kind of equipped for boarding, and I don't think I really had any fighters to utilize, or at least denied a boarding attempt the best. So it didn't work out for them. They weren't relying on actually destroying my ships. It's just way too aggressive with the vanguards, and I don't know what to really say. It's definitely a completely different result, or at least completely different from how it worked like when I played with orcs, mind you, where my opponent was a little more cautious and took the time. But even then, if my opponent decided to go the slow and steady route, I have so many fighters that would not have been a factor. I could have just haphazardly launched fighters on my fleet and they probably would have shot down all the boarding torpedoes that Space Marine player had access to. So it's a 90-day kind of comparison, almost, between my orc match and this one. Sadly. Ooh, Chaos. This should be a really good match for me, arguably. It depends on what they're fielding, of course, but since I'm kind of focused on what? Excuse me there. Now, where was I? I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say this should be a good matchup for me, but if my Chaos friends were relying a lot on lances, my deflector, my armor isn't a big issue, or I can't take advantage of it, but realistically, Tau would like to fight at long range, especially with my equipment, my upgrades to kind of enhance my accuracy. And since they don't quite have the 83 armor, my railgun should be pretty effective here, even if it's still heavily mitigated by the armor itself. It's still going to be pretty impactful, and my repair drone is going to be amazing, I want to argue, for really slow chipping damage that the lances have to bring against me. So this should, in theory, be an easy match, assuming my opponent's going long range kind of play, and even if they're using fighters, I'm well equipped for that too. Only thing I need to be mindful of is maybe the close range aggression with like slaughters and armor piercing rounds. That might be the exception. And even then, I'm a lot more stronger in close, since with bombers, they have so much less time to actually shoot down the bombers if they come right at me and I time it properly. So I'm not too worried there. I just gotta be aware of it. I gotta spot that before they get into optimal fire range. And if they're slaughters, there's no way I can outrun them, and even if I turn around, I'm not really doing any damage, which is something I'm gonna have to be careful of. I'm really expecting a longer range type of game, but I know there was one opponent that was all slaughters, but my Tyranid fleet for that match was ill-equipped to deal with that aggression. Never mind the fact I think I left my battle cruisers really vulnerable and susceptible to such a rush attack too. But I feel like this could go well. It remains to be seen though. Although, it helps if they can spread out my fleet a little bit. Since they like, I guess, since I'm moving the mouse as I'm clicking, it likes to clump it up there when I don't wish it to. And this is a lot of ships. I'm going to, yeah. I guess my opponent doesn't know about the solid running during deployment, which is a little bit of a shame, because I saw everything. And I want to argue it means a lot of frigates and a lot of light cruisers, which suits me well. The light cruisers don't have a lot of long-range firepower potential. They can be decent as carrier ships, mind you, but in truth, the only, like, the Sauce is like one of those few light cruisers that have ridiculous amount of firepower. They have double-barreled, they have 2 shots on the railgun turrets, as opposed to Protectors, which only has single turrets, mind you. The only reason they're really dangerous is because they have prow fixed ones as well. Which says 90-degree arc, but that visual seems to be, like, tells me a different story altogether. So I don't know who to believe anymore. But the Emissary, I keep calling them Sauces, mind you, because those are the more popular type of light cruisers, mind you. They are really impactful, especially if you go for the Cao Yang style. Like I already hinted, they have like half their firepower was pretty. Yeah, they get half their firepower if you try strafing, kind of like I did with my Chaos run. So they could still slowly chip fleets down. And with the Cao Yang style, if you could stay hidden and avoid frigates, then you're getting that extra accuracy bonus while you're solid running. Only catch is you're not locking on for the additional range. That's the big catch there. Well, that's not entirely true, since even if you're not detected or revealed, you still get that Cao Yang bonus, I think. You just have solid running as a way to get back into stealth, ideally, to keep that bonus going. I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but I am interested to see what my opponent's doing. I did launch fighters, I saw I did. Yeah, I did clearly launch fighters, unless they burst. Okay, Carnage. Not too terribly worried about a Carnage. But I would love to shoot you. Again, if there's a hotkey for focus fire, I need to really learn that. That would be really convenient if I reveal like 4 or 5 cruisers at a time. So that way I can rapid fire my way through that. Otherwise, we'll just take our time. I'm better equipped for this. Especially with bombers to help immediately obliterate some of these lower health frigates. Just gotta be very careful and manage my formation. That's the big thing. The one real issue I've had with Tau, especially my other fleet, is just making sure I don't get overwhelmed by all the micromanagement of keeping a cohesion, keeping composure with my fleet. Since they tend to die really quick, especially when they get separated and aren't able to focus fire the best, that's the real catch. Especially with the high terrain radius with the upgrade itself makes it tricky. I found when I've ever if I ever lose focus some.
Ready for orders.
Okay, we got a Desolator.
Spread the great.
Now, let's turn these fleets around because I'm getting critical hits.
We serve the
Let their shields recharge, and then let Fleet 2 take these brunts of the damage.
teachings of Yona.
I sadly lost my deck, but
Drones activate.
that's good there. The extra mobility will make this pretty impactful.
Patient hunter gets the prey.
Now, let's fire. Oh, I don't want to fire missiles. Those are the ones in back. I almost fired with my protectors, which probably would have been really bad in this situation.
How may I serve?
And I do have my Castellan. My Castellan's just taking no fire right now, which is actually good for me. I was hoping to kill the engine. Oh, that's because the engine was never focused. That explains that.
We serve the Kovatna.
Yeah, my opponent knows what they're doing. So where's my protector's positioning? I need to be mindful not to get myself killed. And you have no high energy turn. But I would like to keep this Castellan alive as well.
Drones have identified an enemy target.
Actually, let me go grab this point up here with these Warrens. And these Warrens down here can get to work.
Greater good.
Alright. Oh, that wasn't what I wanted, but I hit the wrong button. I accidentally fired the railgun.
At your orders, Cole.
Now, shields are up. Let's do this dance again. And let's not ram each other, ideally.
Pure Tide's teaching sky now fire. That cannot be done, Cole.
Alright, fire everything. Custodian can fire more missiles. I'm getting bored right now, so let's be careful of that.
Your orders, Cole. Gravitic drone.
No, I'm about to lose the point, but I have the firepower deal for at least.
Seizing one of your strategic areas.
So far, this is looking promising. I just need my seeker missiles to stick if I actually want to kill something quickly. That's the main catch, but these fighters are a good distraction. I just learned recently the fighters actually do damage to ships over time. I don't know how exactly it works if it's after they destroy all the point defense, mind you, but that is a factor I never really knew about, let alone considered utilizing. But this should hurt quite a bit. Now, Custodian, time for you to rally everything. I got about 50 seconds until... Oh. Well, that's an interesting torpedo shot.
Air Caste.
I would say that was an auto cast, but that's not even possible in this game anymore, so I wonder what the hell triggered that.
Missiles launched.
Now, bombers, do your damage. I still have fighters up, I'm hoping.
Spread the
And just protect the rest of my fleet, please, Custodian. You can take on that Desolator. I hope I'm not confusing the Chaos battleship's names anymore. This would make it a little bit awkward for me.
Strategic area.
at your orders, Cole.
Now, seeker missiles, I like to fire with you. I don't know if I'm actually get too close. I got some hits. One of which got a critical hit on the generator, which is good for me. Now, repair drones.
How may I
Repair drones are up. Time to get an overwhelming amount of health back. It's, meanwhile, let me focus on the crisis with my other fleets.
Accumulated 25%
Oh,
of strategic
I did that horribly. I did that really horribly there with my fleet, apparently.
setting systems?
I should have also braced for impact, because then I could easily kill this frigate.
Strategic area.
Let's start grabbing points. I have fleets for this. I'm grabbing the one up top. This should be over soon, especially once the bombers have their way with these ships. And fighters too. Fighters is currently distracting. It's... Hell, I was kind of hoping maybe all the point defense were gone, but that's not true. I wonder if... It doesn't actually say on the emergency repairs, but I wonder if you can actually repair the point defense, since... It seems like they regenerate some. Like, I wasn't looking to Custodian, but I think I may have just regenerated some point defense there too, is kind of to emphasize my point. Oh, and this is... I forgot to change the fire priority, so this is one of the consequences of not focusing on my prow. I'm probably going to lose this war just because of that, since it's losing out on a lot of its firepower potential.
Drones have identified an enemy target.
Come on,
At your
stop rebelling on me. I thought I gave you a simple move order there, but
The ethereals guide us.
and fighters also... Oh yeah, it's a cruiser, so
We serve the Kovatna.
let's spread out. Capture the points.
For our
That's all that needs to be done right now. Oh, it's probably because I have to rebind my group since I'm kind of hitting group 1 for this fleet here, when it's not really needed.
At your orders, Koro.
Alright. And bombers alone should be able to deal with that really quickly.
How may I serve the town?
We should have this, I just don't want to lose to do the objective, mind you. And with the points I have, that's not a problem anyway.
Blast doors sealed.
I've just got to make sure I don't lose any more ships than necessary, which, really, the only ship I lost looks like it was the Castellan. Now get to capping the damn point already. I don't know how these things haven't captured this point by now, but it feels like I messed up horribly. Since I don't have auto engagement on, right? I hope I didn't accidentally turn that on.
As the ethereals wish.
But either way, this will be dead. I'm just going to ram it to kind of emphasize my point. That's out in the middle of nowhere.
Korel.
To the point I'd rather just launch bombers on it, but
Serve the Koro.
we should be good now. We just gotta wait for the end of this match. And I do have brace for impact. Oh, I don't have any turrets. Unless, actually, this is a good way to test it.
Restore the Earth Caste.
Yep, I just repaired my point defense, so that is a factor that
Will be so.
really need to keep in mind, especially for heavy fighter
Your
fleets.
orders, Koro.
Although I'm immediately losing my point defense, mind you, but it's good to keep that in
You
mind.
have seized a strategic area.
And we'll deal with our light cruiser friend here.
Honor the teachings of Viola.
The enemy has accumulated.
Otherwise, we
50%
just have to
of
sit and
strategic
wait
points.
basically for this to end, I suppose. Since my opponent's gonna fight to the end, and I can appreciate that. I can respect that some. It's just dragging out our time, alas. Considering what I'm trying to do here, demonstrate the Tau ideally in all their glory. Nonetheless, can we at least deny these boarding? I'm assuming these are the boarding crafts.
50% of strategic points.
Come on, shoot them down a little bit more. Thank you.
Patient hunter gets the prey.
You two, you are group 2. I just gotta remember that for the sake of just rapidly going through. Especially since I accidentally set my protector over here. So you're gonna be group 3, and what's group 4? You're congratulations. Everyone's in the group except for our lonely. Oh, you are in group 3. For a moment, I thought you weren't in the group.
At your orders.
Silly me. Yeah, we got this here. If anything, I should just turn around. Actually, that's what my warnings are for. Time for you to pick on someone your own side there, you stinking light cruiser. See how you like it getting picked on and bullied. Especially when it's 2-on-1. And otherwise, salt run. Give them the benefit of hiding. And ideally, I like to kill this frigate. I try to give a fair fight, and I'm just being mean by ruining this frigate's day. Ooh, double ram for the bonus. Just because of the extra whiff of this thing.
Air Caste ready for order.
I would love to experimental railgun that thing. I'm just gonna hit myself.
Korel. Closing on your
Does it hit? Nah. It's a little finicky with that aiming, so you definitely need... You can't just click on it and assume it's gonna hit. Ooh. Look at that close proximity. That's exactly what I mean when you use the normal movement there. They kind of are gonna conflict with each other, especially if you need to turn around.
The ethereals
So this feature to be able to spread how far apart you want your ships to be is kind of essential.
your orders, Koro.
It's really helpful, because that's been a huge problem with the protectors if you try and manage them as a single group. And it doesn't work well more often than not. Hell, I almost want to go so far that can ram each other on occasion just from doing normal movement, as opposed to crisis management, trying to do evasive maneuvers.
Weapons hot.
Otherwise, get the Custodian here. Are we all in range? That thing has some reach, needless to say. And the repair drones effectively work immediately, I think. Yep, works immediately. I don't have brace for impact, but this is over. Our long nightmare of this going on forever is now at an end, I think. But that's a good demonstration of the sheer durability that the Tau fleet can utilize. Okay, I'm completely wrong. There's still a ship around somewhere.
The ethereals guide us.
So, what I'm going to do is just cut this off here. We already know it's a victory. That way it'll give me some more time to maybe do one final match with my Protectors and Demiurge.
Find an enemy target.
In all honesty though, I played it very much like I have with this fleet with the Custodian. The only difference is if possible, I just keep the Demiurge back and try and bait them towards it. Sure, they know it's there, but it's very easy for them to forget about the ship if I leave it sitting here for like 5-10 minutes almost.
How may I serve?
And man, does it do damage on a full charge. It is quite potent when it actually strikes. It can almost deal with like battle cruisers and battleships on its own, I want to say, just because of the cutting beam alone. You have to make sure that... I'll stop rambling. I'll save you the misery of having to watch me slowly kill off a dang... Oh, never mind. He's actually going to disengage. So maybe I failed in my endeavor to cut this match short, huh? It's still a good demonstration of the durability, the resilience, because they were carnages. I don't recall seeing any armor-piercing rounds, though, which would have been a huge reliability, or at least essential upgrade for that kind of close-range engagement. And it's really awkward to fire seeker missiles as well, just because of the tracking element, since, like I said, no, he didn't have armor-piercing rounds. He was more equipped for longer range, as funny as it sounds, so... I'm wondering what the thought process was there. It still worked. It seemed to work really damn well. It's just the question if that was the right strategy considering upgrades he had, though. Since armor-piercing rounds without a doubt would have been much more dangerous, and I would have had to take that much more seriously. Ooh, Mechanicus. This might be scary. Well, that's not entirely true because I don't really have the Custodian this time, which was arguably the one most vulnerable to the mass Nova Cannon type of strategy. Since with my additional speed and rotation speed, I should be able... Dang it, my throat's starting to give out. Or at least, I don't know what's going on. Dang mucus. I don't know. I don't have any excuse. Like I said, it's been a weird day. I'm hoping to put this to bed with another win. I don't have the sheer durability, mind you, but... Like I said, I have the mobility to at least deal with the Nova Cannons really well. I'm really not liking this little tickle in my throat. My cold's kind of gone away from the other day, but still annoying nonetheless. And actually, I don't want you in group 2. Let's stick with the group we've been doing before. And I have Castellans in here, and ideally, why not just do the same thing I did before? Protectors in front, Sauces with the 2 Borkons, or at least a single Borkon in the back. And I'm really liking this light effect, good god. This is the most impressive I've seen so far. I'm a little bit shocked. Actually, let me get this group set up there. I would like to learn how to get the most out of these ships and their mobility, but for now we're going to stick with Monka, since that technically is the playstyle I'm going to be really utilizing in all seriousness. But I love to play with the Cao Yang without... Yep. Alright, now I completely lost that thought. I completely forgot what I was going to say. Way to go, me. We're doing a good job. Nonetheless, let's hopefully put on a good show at least. Oh, and I forgot to saw run. I'm just like that other person from the other match who forgot to saw run. Also, these warnings are in a bad spot too. Nonetheless, let's get this in here. Sure, it sees the Demiurge, but I'm probably going to be forced to move forward anyway. But ideally, what I'm trying to experiment with is try and back up, keep constantly backing up with my mobility while chipping them down. Although, that sounds like a terrible idea when you consider that I'm giving up every single point. And my opponent kind of sees it coming in all seriousness too, so it may not be as practical as it sounds. But I would like to play a more Cao Yang type of style, especially since apparently I keep my accuracy. Alright. Maybe a lower skilled opponent, but the Nova Cannons are still really serious. I have to take them super seriously. Even if it is random firing, they're still dead accurate if I don't watch and listen for them. And thankfully you can hear when the Nova Cannons are firing, you just gotta pay attention. So background music, or even in-game music, can be a liability if you're not careful. Or if you have to listen to your own voice at a constant rate throughout this entire match. That's gonna really suck too, isn't it? This is gonna be really poor in comparison to all my other Mechanicus matches. I think it's gonna be safe to assume. Nonetheless, we're gonna grab our points there. I was a bit worried maybe I was gonna have them fly off the point, but ideally, let me stay here, see what happens, and let these warnings take point. Hell, let's actually see what we're up against. How many fighter bombers squadrons to worry about? I haven't seen anything of the sort, so I think we're okay.
How may I serve?
I want to say anyway. And I gotta remember, frontal firing there. I don't want these to wander off,
Ready for orders.
which is going to be problematic for the Castellans. And again, there is a hotkey for this. I just haven't really sought to actually look at it, let alone memorize or rebind it. So that's the reason why all the manually clicking. Not excluding the seeker missiles. And I'm really tempted to launch a bomber there, since I have 2 scanners to kind of force to keep this thing fission. Yeah, it's just gonna fly off to potentially its death there. Ooh. I only got a couple of fighters, mind you, and I'm not hearing any... Okay, Novacans, I was gonna say. But there is that low hum.
The patient hunter gets the prey.
They're really snappy in mobility. Hell, you could dodge these Novacans incredibly well. Just for... Oh, I did do a second pulse. Okay, I was wondering if that was gonna die or not.
Bravo shall prosper.
And I am Monka, so let's try and focus down components.
We serve the Korvacha.
Okay, 1 Novacan is fine, because I have shields for that.
Gravity drive to
My shields are going to need recharge, so you know we're going to switch dance partners here. This is the one thing I kind of enjoy doing most with Tau, but this does not strike me as being very Cao Young, if I were to be honest. I don't even think it strikes me as Killing Blow, since Killing Blow is about really sudden, really swift, aggressive damage, and kill the target ideally almost immediately. Which in all honesty is what the bombers and the seeker missiles are kind of for.
will be so.
Now, I want to launch fighters. I want to launch seeker missiles, so... An experimental railgun. I think that was the example of what I mean by the pathing again there too, because my flagship was actually pointed at an odd angle. Okay, actually hit, so that's pretty good there. Sauces. Oh, you're not actually doing anything right now. Oh, did I just let one of my frigates die? Yeah, I just let one of them die. Ooh, ramming damage, ramming damage. I don't like this, not one bit. Ooh, Rad Storm 2 for good measure. Let's not deal with that, please.
At your orders.
And Sauces. Oh, you're on burn retros. And actually, let's get our Demiurge in here. It's long overdue for its performance, right? Hell, it's even already shooting into the battle, so it's doing its job. No, don't do it. Oh, Castellan, don't do it either. Ah, dang it. I wasn't looking long enough, but it was still painful.
Closing on your position.
Now let's get the brace. Oh, I should have braced for impact there too, just in case.
How may I serve the town?
But can I get torpedo hits in? This thing has no evasive maneuvers. I just gotta wait
We serve the
for the shields to go down. Also, Castellan, you're the only one with lock on, so let's make use of accuracy, shall we? Nope, I think I scared them. I think our friend knows exactly what this thing's capable of. Actually, let's get close to range, because I'm not actually getting that much more aggressive, am I? Then the part of the fact is I'm kind of like burning retros, or I think for some of my ships too. There, let's cut this thing in half with all the critical hits.
Something to mine.
Good damage, still have a lot of work left to do. And oh, that was with the assassin, was it? Yeah, that was the assassin, okay. Huh, interesting. You got a lot of games in still, but let's get ourselves uncramped here. My Castellan's not doing well.
Air Caste ready for orders.
Okay, I was wondering why I wasn't firing.
How may I serve the town?
Now, keep firing, keep just murder this other ship. I'm gonna be really vulnerable to Novacans if I stay here. So at least the Sauce might get screwed. I got morale. Actually, let me rally my fleet here. I got more seeker missiles, so let's start firing them.
At your orders, Colonel.
And I have repair drones. Let's not forget about that. That's really essential for these drawn-out firefights, after all. And I was a bit worried maybe I hit my own Castellan. Now let's change fire angle, because now I'm worried maybe 4,500 was a bad angle to attack from. But we're doing good. Oh, I actually conveniently rallied my Demiurge without really thinking about it. So get back in there. The one time... Oh god, flagship's about to die too, so... And generator's down, so I can't just jump it out. But I think we got this here. One cruiser's gone. We're capping the points, but... Oh, something just mutinied again. Oh, it's the flagship this time. That I sadly cannot do anything about. Actually, let's just ram this to death. It has enough health to justify it. There we go. When in doubt, and there's a shield in your way, just ram it. There's a good life advice for you there. When in doubt, just ram it. Oh wait, that's a little bit dirtier than I intended. It's still probably applicable. I'm almost ashamed to admit. Almost. Nonetheless, this looks over. I'm just wondering what's left. Just the frigates that backdoored me, I suppose. Yep, I probably spelt that wrong, but at least made it good for my opponent, I suppose. I hate to ruin the moment for a fan, or at least someone who watches my content. But yeah, if none of these really felt like Cao Yang, well, again, I already hinted at it. It's not really Monka either, just sitting there and shooting them constantly. Monka is all about trying to kill something immediately, baiting for the perfect trap, so maybe I was kind of doing the Cao Yang style. It just, with the buff, the benefit off it, it seems like I'm not, if I were to be perfectly honest. So I don't know what to believe. I don't know what Tyndalus is trying to tell me.